If you're a beginner trying to navigate learning piano on your own, I have 10 insights that only truly clicked for me when I started learning Korean. I'm making this video for two reasons. First, to share some methods and mindset shifts that I think will really help you as an adult learning piano. And second, to share a crazy, personal, and life-changing thing that happened just a few months ago. And I know not everyone cares about personal stories about me, so I'll save that for the end if you want to stick around. You've probably heard that learning to read music and play an instrument is like learning a language. But I never realized just how deeply they actually are connected. For the first time in my adult life, I truly understand what it's like to learn something completely foreign, and it's changed the advice I'll give adult piano beginners from now on. Let's jump into the insights that learning Korean taught me about learning piano. When learning Korean, I had to memorize Hangul, completely new symbols and sounds. At the end of a study session, I'd feel good, like I'd start to recognize the patterns, but if I skipped just one day, it felt like I completely forgot everything, and there's nothing more demotivating than that. If you're learning to read music and you've never done it before, you need that daily or near daily dose of practice. Otherwise, it's like starting over every time you sit at the piano. On tough days, rather than ditching piano practice altogether, bargain a little bit with yourself. If your goal is to do 30 minutes a day, do 10 minutes of simple review instead. When I was extra busy, just 10 minutes of doing a simple language app kept my brain engaged, and most importantly, the next day it didn't feel like I forgot everything. So my reason for learning Korean is huge, bigger than I ever imagined, but when I focused too much on my ultimate end goal, it held me back because it felt way too overwhelming and distant. Now, in the past, I always thought your piano why was the most important thing. For example, maybe your piano goal is to play a Chopin nocturne or a Beethoven sonata. Now, those are great goals, and I would have said to put it on a vision board or something, but now I say don't focus on those big goals every day. Instead, celebrate the small wins, learning one measure, mastering one hand movement, or recognizing a new chord. These daily victories keep you moving forward because you're conscious of your small progressions. When I learned a new Korean phrase, I'd proudly repeat it over and over to my boyfriend or try using it at a Korean restaurant. It was motivating and made me feel good about what I was learning. For piano, find your own safe space to share progress. Play for a family member, teach a song to someone, or post a short video in an online community. And this insight isn't new, right? But I think it's easy to overlook it or to think, yes, I will someday do that. But sharing and connecting with other like-minded pianists makes the process more enjoyable and keeps you coming back. So don't overlook it. I had to take a 1-week break from Korean, and when I came back, I was so tempted to just start over from lesson 1 because the beginning feels easy and I'd forgotten everything. I didn't want to have to deal with the feelings of not remembering what I had worked so hard for. Before starting Korean, I would have advised adults to, sure, go back to lesson 1 after a long break, but I found that's just a sneaky form of procrastination. Piano learners do this. Once they get to a spot that feels insurmountable, they often want to go back to the very beginning instead of pushing through. Like they think it's going to be different this time. This time it'll be perfect progress. But progress isn't about perfection. It's about always moving forward, even if it's very slow. So if you need to, sure, take 1, 2, maybe 3 steps back. That's normal, that's expected. Just don't start over. There were many times when it felt like I couldn't remember anything, and I thought, maybe I just don't have the language learning gene. But that's simply not true. I hear pianists say this all the time. I just wasn't born musical, or I don't have talent. You don't need to be a prodigy to learn piano, but you do need to believe that you can do it. To believe in your ability always sounded a little too frou-frou for me, but it's really true. Yes, you have the potential to be a pianist. It won't be easy, but you have the ability. Some days, everything clicks. Other days, you feel like you'll never get it. This is normal and to be expected. Progress isn't a straight line. We know this. It's a messy, zigzagging path. I've told my students this before, but it's completely different when you're the one feeling like you're not making any progress or maybe even getting worse. So you have to be firm with yourself in your mindset. Set your expectations right away, knowing that ups and downs are part of the piano journey. You're not special. You're not going to do this thing perfectly. You're not going to avoid the downs. With that in mind, you won't be as discouraged when you do have an off day. In Korean, I use multiple tools. Duolingo, Talk to Me in Korean, Anki flashcards, YouTube lessons, and a private tutor. This layered approach helps reinforce knowledge. And I stagger each resource a bit so that maybe one day a week I'm learning a brand new concept, but then the rest of the days it really is like a review and reinforcement. I might not completely understand a grammar concept the first time it rolls around, but then by the second or the third time, it clicks. I'm also getting slightly different perspectives and ways to approach the material, which helps me connect more dots and see more patterns in the language itself. If I were to use just one of those resources, it would feel like it was moving too fast for me because I wouldn't have enough practice and review with the lesson material. For piano, try not to just move from one lesson to the next, especially as a beginner, because there are so many new concepts you're going to have to learn. Review old pieces, techniques, and mix up your practice routine to solidify what you're learning. And if you're learning without a private teacher, I highly recommend using 2 to 3 resources at a time. It kind of pains me to say this because I want to tell you that I'm all you need, but it's just not true. Gather different resources from YouTube, a private course, or a membership like mine. Not everyone teaches the same, and different styles will benefit you. At times, I do a Korean lesson and think, okay, I do not get this at all. But I had to trust that if I kept going, it would make sense later. And the same applies to piano. Some concepts won't click 100% right away, and that's okay. That's normal. Do the best you can now, and know that understanding will come with time. It's a process. I started Korean with one approach, then realized I needed to adjust. Some methods moved too fast, others didn't stick. So I always had a learning plan, 2 lessons in this thing, 5 minutes here, reviewing vocab, this much a day, blah, blah, blah. But I found that I needed to change it every month or so according to my needs. With piano, don't be afraid to switch things up as well, especially when it comes to how long you practice per day and what you practice every day. Just adapt as you go. Now this one is tough for me. I don't like speaking Korean out loud until I know I'll say it perfectly. I'm a perfectionist, but that's a trap. Perfectionism stops progress. In piano, don't let the fear of making mistakes hold you back. They're a part of learning. Play boldly, mess up, and learn from it. And you don't necessarily always have to perfect a piece to 100% in order to move on to the next thing. You can always come back, revisit that piece later, and find how much you've grown. Okay, if you're still here, you're curious about the personal part of this journey. Last year, a friend gifted me a DNA test for my birthday. So I was adopted from Korea as a baby and grew up in Michigan with an amazing family. But I never explored my Korean heritage. It was a different time back then. It was the 80s. There was no internet. Then in November, Ancestry.com sent me my results, and right away, I saw I had a match, a very close match, a first cousin once removed. So, of course, I messaged him at 1 p.m. and he replied 30 minutes later. By 4 p.m. that same day, he sent me this. Just 3 hours after my first message. By the next day, I was messaging with my birth mom, which was surreal. Suddenly, my family had expanded. A birth mom, half-sister, nephews. It's been overwhelming, amazing, emotional. I'm still for sure processing this. But for the first time, I'm starting to feel the beginnings of a true connection to Korea. And learning the language is a big part of that. And I'm actually traveling to Korea soon to visit for the first time and meet my birth family. So I wanted to share this here with you because even though this is a piano channel, many of you have been with me for a long time and I feel connected to this community. There it is, that's why I am learning Korean. So I'll be taking a short break from YouTube while I prepare and travel, but I've got plenty of resources for you while I'm gone. I'm coming up on my 4-year anniversary with YouTube, and so with over 200 videos, there's plenty for you to choose from. I have a piano course that will get you started for free. All you'll need is the keyboard or piano. I provide all of the rest. There's also a major and minor 12-week challenge playlist that goes through all the major and minor keys, scales and arpeggios with their fingering, key signatures, and several free pieces to practice at different levels in those keys. If you want to learn all about chords, I have a playlist for that as well. There's a challenging ear training playlist and several playlists for individual piano tutorials at different levels. All the links are in the description, so you'll have plenty to work on while I'm away. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening to my story. I hope the random tips that I learned are helpful to you. I'll see you next time.